Well, I suppose the first thing you have to ask yourself is why you're putting up a tower in the middle of winter. Of course, all amateur radio operators, known as hams, realize you always work on antennas in the wintertime, the worst possible time. Well, there was a deadline to meet, and the concrete went in just before the snows came. Therefore, no matter what the temperature is, you have to start putting the tower together. Now when it's 20 below, they don't go up there because the wind chill factor up on top of the tower is just too high. First job is to place all the sections in order, and in this case you can put two sections together because the crane is the machine here that lifts the section up, or two at a time, and it can go up to about 200 feet. And after that, well, then you got to use the gin pole. Here's two sections going up with the use of the crane. I went back the next day to get a shot of them pulling the gin pole up on the tower using this power winch. 2 cables, one for the gin pole and one to carry up the tower sections. And also something called a tagline, which we'll talk about a little later.
Want one of these?
Nice harness. I think we asked why the gin pole was leaning out, and they said it gets pulled in tight before they lift the tower section up. You guys gonna go up first?
Yeah. Where you want them hooked up at? What? Want these up there now, or want me to put them on the section?
Yeah, hook it at the bottom of the section that's coming up.
Well, before the tower section is lifted up, 3 men have to go back up to the top to guide the tower into place. This time here, there's 2 going up. I think one's at the top, or he's going to go up later. You'll note how slow everything goes. Nothing's done quickly. You hit something going fast, it's going to hurt.
Drinking me, did you?
Yeah.
No. Silly.
As a kid, do you remember that little game called the Chinese finger pull? A tube about 4 inches long. You put your finger inside and try to pull out and you can't. The harder you pull, the tighter it gets. Well, this is the same principle here. This is the guide that goes up to the top of the tower and then down to the ground, and this is all that holds it. He wraps this, and there's a name for it, I don't know what it is. He wraps these two pieces around, and once that is in place, you can't pull the cable out, like the old Chinese finger wrap.
Ready to go.
Once the section is in place, the next job is to have the machine on the ground with the winch cables to slide the gin pole up very carefully to approximately halfway. And it takes quite a while to do this and to anchor it off before they pull the next section up. The next job is to put the tether on this white section of the tower, a little above the center so it hangs down. The weight, the blue weight on there is to keep the cable straight, otherwise it would kind of curl itself up. Two pulleys in place, one to pull the tower section up, and I think the other one is to pull the gin pole up.
This way? You're going to want to drag it a little bit. Up easy.
Also on the winch machine on the trailer, besides pulling 2 cables, there's what's called as a rope winch, which is the tagline. And all the rope goes into the bucket as it comes off the line. This way it never tangles up. As he releases the tension, the rope slides out, or he can have the winch pull the rope back towards him.
Good.
There isn't enough daylight left to put up another section. Gin pole's in place, so everyone's going to call it a day. And the easiest and fastest way down is to snap yourself onto the line that pull the tower section up with your safety harness and take about a 5-minute ride down. Everything's done very slowly. Well, as you can see by now, this is a lot more involved than putting up a ham radio tower, but the principle is still the same. When the weather forecasters talk about something called wind chill, well, imagine this on the ground. Let's say the wind is 5 to 10 miles an hour, and up on top it can be 25 to 30 miles an hour. You can imagine what that does to the flesh. These guys are dressed pretty good, but still, the face is left open to exposure. Takes some tough guys to do a job like this.
always have to turn around. Are you good now? Alright.
I want a copy of that. Woo! Damn tower!
You got that, Dave?
Here's that choker.
Okay.
Small steel one.
You gotta do it twice today.
Next, guy wire has to be pulled off the roll with something I call a wire
Right here. This one goes to your
vice grip.
truck anchor, winch anchor.
It clamps around the cable and it's attached to the ATV, and it's measured out with stakes on the ground, I think, and it's pulled by the ATV down the hill until they get the amount that they need. Now this part's important. Notice that they pick up the winch cables he drives underneath. They don't even drive the ATV over the cable. Now that the proper amount is pulled out, the cable has to be cut. And before it's cut, 2 pieces of steel wire are wound around the cable so it doesn't unwind, if you will, and they make the cut in between the 2 of them. How do you know the tower's straight?
From behind the anchor and 90 degrees from that anchor.
Something?
Laser transit or what?
Just regular transit.
And you have to do each section then or what?
Each guy level, yep. Straighten it one way, and then the other guy look through his transit and straighten it that way. And keeping in mind, you got to watch your tensions. So you don't get too high or too low on the tensions.
That is the grab. That actually just physically grabs a hold of the wire while you're pulling tensions up on it. And you've got the cable, which is different from come-alongs because it's got a lot more, so you don't have to physically pull the cable out to the anchor head as far physically. You just pull it out as far as you can, hook the cable up to it, feed it through. It's called a grip hoist. Right? It's called the grip hoist. You just feed the cable through, and then you got 2 cables here, release handle in the backwards position, so we can just pull the cable straight through in or out. With this in the forward position, this one will bring tension up on the cable. This one will bring it down on the tension down on the cable. Each motion will bring it up. Back will bring it up. Forward will bring it up. As opposed to a come along, you get the one motion.
How do you know?
One's a ratcheting motion.
How do you know when you have the right tension?
We have what's called a pin tech. You just put that on the line and snap it down, and it spits out a number, and then you just calculate that number with the corresponding temperature chart, and that tells us what the temperature is supposed to be. Otherwise, there's what you put in there would be a Dillon dynameter, and that is just basically a oversized fish scale.
What do you call that wrap around the cable? Is the name for it?
it's a preform. And then once you got tensions and the tower aligned, go ahead and take the cable in, put it in the preform, take hand tension up on the turnbuckles, and then at that point you just come up 2 or 3 turns on the turnbuckle, which will take enough of the pressure off of the grip hoist that you can come all off and no tensions, or the alignment should be out of whack due from the transfer from the grip hoist over into the turnbuckle.
I call this the Chinese finger grip. How good is it?
It's a preform grip.
Freeform. How good is it?
Each one of these little notches, there's roughly 8 to 10 grab points, and I can't recall the exact ratio, but it's a few thousand pounds per grab point. So there's they hold quite a few thousand pounds, depending on the size of the preform, obviously. This size here is a 5/8. All of them are 5/8 except for the very bottom one. That's a 3/8. And they're all color coordinated to tell us the sizes.
Tell me that again. What's the black for?
Black is 5/8. It tells us the size of the preform to wrap on the wire. 5/8 inch wire, 5/8 inch preform. You got 5/8, 5/8. The very bottom one's orange. That tells us it's a 3/8 inch preform for the 3/8 inch cable.
Hard to see the orange.
Yeah, you got like a little spot here and then another spot right up here.
The ATV is used to pull the cable out, and then they attach the cable vice grip, I call it, onto the wire. Right now he's taking it off the wire they used last time, and he's going to put it on that wire just above his head. And from there, they pull it with the ATV to keep it taut, and then they put on that special come along that goes in both directions to pull the wire up tight.
Huh?
We're gonna get some tension on that, and then we'll put our tail through the hole.
Oh yeah.
Let's fucking re-quick it. Go out, Aaron.
When all the guy wires are put into place, this is what it looks like, with the pigtail going through each one of the connections and the turnbuckle. When the first couple of sections went up by crane, the guy cables were attached on the section before it lifted it up. But as they got higher, the cable had to be pulled up. It looks like the cable is attached to a tether to him. Actually, the cable is pretty heavy, and that tether is connected to the cable pulling him and the guy wire cable up there. The end, it flips around in a circle with the so-called Chinese finger on it. Can't be bent, so it's kind of looped around him. He'll hold it in this position until the co-worker takes the end and snaps it into place.
Comes on, 'cause we need that one.
I know it looks like he's pulling it up with a tether, but that would rip his harness right off. It's 350 feet of what, 5/8 cable. I don't know what it would weigh, but it's got to be very heavy. As he gets to the top, he'll anchor himself off, and then the co-worker will grab the end and put it into place. I guess you could call this our workspace with a view. Not for me, and probably not for most of us. It takes a special person to want to be up here and work on a tower like this. Well, once the guy cable's in place, then you slow descent down, latched on to the gin pole cable. Well, now you have some idea of what it's like to put up a heavy-duty tower. Not quite the same as putting up an amateur radio tower. As we get near the end of construction, the next thing to go up is conduit for power for these 3 lights, which will be at the midsection, and a bulb that's at the top. Now, the power cable will be buried in the spring because it's ground's pretty hard right now. Notice these holes in that flat panel? That's to hold the hard line. The snap goes around the coax or hard line and then is jammed in that hole, and that keeps it in place. And there's one of these plates on all 3 sides every couple of feet all the way to the top of the tower. When it's time to take the rope down, they don't just drop it. He holds it in his hand, and the person on the ground then snaps the rope out of his hand, and it all comes flying back on the ground away from the guy towers. The rope is then gathered into the box, just like this here. This way it never tangles up when you pull it out next time. The next item of business is to bring this 1,200-pound gin pole down to the ground and dismantle it into 3 sections. The idea here is to get it away from the tower so they can lay it down flat and start to dismantle the sections to go on a trailer. It's harder than it looks because of the weight. Let's take a look and see how they do it.
Come down a little bit more first.
Yeah, come back. Come back that way. We should go swing it over, huh?
Got that wire
more.
I have to go a little bit more.
Now that the gin pole is on the ground, the three section has to be taken apart. Keep in mind this gin pole is 1,200 pounds, therefore it's about 400 pounds each section. When it's bolted together, look at all the bolt holes. Nothing's on the outside, everything's on the inside when it goes together. Not just 4 holes, but quite a few holes. Before the truck could back up to where the gin poles were laying on the ground, the wind blew the snow in where the road was. So Roger had to come and plow out some of the snow so they could get the truck back where it's supposed to be. Keep in mind, each one of these poles is about 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. Some muscles over here.
Hercules on chain. Suppose you haven't done this in a while, Aaron.
Manual labor?
No lifting the pole. Ready? Ready? Right downtown.
Yeah, you can do this by himself.
We're gonna clear it over. No, we're gonna start here. We'll get it up there and then I'll get out and we'll push it over. We'll get it up here, slide it on. Then we'll push it over.
Oh, you want the... This set off level?
Yeah, why not? I don't feel like getting all greasy. Ready? Let me know when you're ready.
What do you mean? You're used to greasy things.
Shut up. You ready? Ready? You touching the front?
Yep.
Well, it's over. Tower's up and it's time to head for home. Before they do that, they've got several empty wooden cable rolls they're going to drop off at Roger's place about 50 feet down the road. And then they'll come back and pick up the other trailer that they left at the site. In the meantime, it's about a 3-hour drive from Bemidji back to St. Cloud. Heck of a job, interesting to watch. Thanks a lot to the guys for talking to me and explaining some of the things that were going on. I hope you've enjoyed this training film on how to put up a radio tower. Of course, for amateur radio people, we deal in much smaller towers and obviously shorter heights above the ground. Whoops, we left somebody behind. No, that was just a runner going down the road. Thanks to the Diamond Tower Company of St. Cloud for allowing the Paul Bunyan Amateur Radio Club to videotape the building of the radio tower for our club members so they can see how it's done. This will be a great training video for all the hams in our area. Thank you.